and welcome everybody to the color pencil piece part 2. In this piece I'll be going over the background, and also if you are first time watching this, I do have a part 1 that you may want to go ahead and watch. It's basically working on the glasses that I had right below this. This is part 2 where I'll be working on the background part, which looks like an aged old-time map. I am working in small light circles. I try and keep my pencil as sharp as I can so that way I can get into those fine little grooves that's in the paper, but I still keep a light hand, and I'm just working over it in circles. I want that top corner to be a little bit darker, so I am actually using I want to say it's like a chocolate or like a darker color. So I think there's like a dark flesh is even a dark color, and I'm using several different pencil brands. Usually it's like in the first video I went over, like I use Caran, Derwent Procolour, Derwent Lightfast. I've used some Derwent drawings. So I got a mixture of different colors, and I won't be using my polychromos also, just to let you know if you haven't seen that one and you're just watching this part 2 just to see this background that I've done. I am actually waiting till the very end to use my polychromos, so that way I'm filling in any little details or any rough edges that I have from the first layer and going over like the glasses and everything else. I'm going to be using those polychromos because I can get a sharper point that's actually a harder lead to be able to fill in those details that I'm needing with like those sharper details. But with this aged map, by me going over it, I want to say I went ahead and did my small little circles, filling it in, going back over and over and over again until I got it thick enough and like, how should I put this? I had a lot of pigment on the paper before I added the OMS. Because if you don't have enough OMS and you go over it, it doesn't really want to blend. It'll actually show like it'll look rough and gritty, like you still got that paper and the pencil marks on it. So if you get that, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. All you have to do is wait for that OMS to dry and get out your pencil and just go over it again and keep doing that layering process. So you want to get enough on there. And then whenever I went over it with the OMS, I did notice that some areas still had that, that little gritty, grainy look. So I went ahead and went over it again for a second time. And after doing this process, it actually looked correct. It looked more like an old age map. In some areas, I may have only had to do it one time of going over it to achieve that look of an old age map, because I didn't want it to be perfectly smooth, because then it wouldn't look like an old age map. So it's all in how much you layer. And if I layered enough pigment on the paper, then whenever I went over it with the OMS, it was actually turned out perfect, that I didn't have to go back over certain areas again and again. So it's all in the matter of your looks. You can kind of tell if it looks gritty, grainy, and you're not wanting that, and you're wanting that smooth look, then you're just gonna have to wait for it to dry. Go ahead and go over it with a sharp pencil that very lightly, go over it in circles, and then reapply it again. So it's a work in progress when it comes to color pencil. There I'm using my little brush with the OMS, just rubbing over it and trying to achieve that blended look. And see, it all just depends. Once it dries out, it looks a little dark, but when it dries out, it actually lightens just a little bit. So don't be afraid if it looks a little dark and blotchy. It'll dry out, and then you can see what you have on the paper, and don't worry about it. You can just go over it again with color pencil, and you'll be able to fix those edges or anything that looks maybe a little blotchy where you had more pigment on the paper than in some areas. Or you could just leave it, because an aged map, it's going to look a little worn in some areas, a little newer in others. So this here was actually really fun doing. And that's the one thing with this picture, you know, it's majority has a lot of brown look to it. So I didn't really have to use like a black. Like that short little one that you see me use right there on the top corner, that's actually my Castle Earth. I think it's like Castle Earth. So it's like a dark, like a brown, reddish kind of brown. And so I use that as being my darkest pencil that I have, I think. Yeah, I'm really thinking that's the one I usually use. I didn't really want to take out a black pencil because that would be just way too dark. I did use that a little bit on the shadowing whenever we get down below where I do some little shadowing and light, the way the light reflects and refracts in those glasses kind of puts the shadows all, I could tell it wasn't like perfect rounded shadows in the reference photo. So yeah, I used a little bit of black in that, but not much. You don't want to get too dark. Another thing that I did to achieve this was the islands, or the little islands that I had mapped out, and none of it really, there's maybe a few little parts on the map that actually goes with the reference photo, but then I started to get kind of carried away and kind of drew my own little map up. So I started making up islands or making up ponds or whatever it is in this picture. So I really got carried away with it. But I tried to make the islands a little bit more darker around the edges. And then I went ahead and took like my little bit of a, I would say like a medium shade brown to be able to create a darker image in the islands than if it was in the ocean. Like the ocean part of it, I went ahead and used my lightest of my, I think it's like my brown ochres, and I just kind of staged it out that way. So that way you can kind of see the difference between an island and like what should be water. Islands are darker, water is lighter. And then I would use like my dark Castle Earth, get it really super sharp, and I would kind of make those little dotted lines that's going through the map. And I did not use a ruler, probably should have, but I don't know, I just wanted to have more of a relaxed feel to it, so I went ahead and did it by hand, just kind of making my marks on the map. And there you can see it right now where I make the little mark. It's not perfect, but, and then on this here, inside the glasses, it was a little bit lighter for where the light kind of reflected, boy, that was hard, reflected in the glasses onto the island. So with looking at my reference photo, which I got, mind you, I got that reference photo from Pixabay, free reference photo. So that's where I picked up that reference photo for this. But in that reference photo, it had like the light shining through the glasses, made the land a little bit lighter. So I would go around the land, making my little marks and grooves and kind of having fun with it. Made my land a little darker, but then when it got to the point where the land was inside those glasses, I kind of made it lighter. So that way it looked like the light was kind of shining through on it. So everything I've been doing as far as coloring and kind of looking at things, when it comes to the glasses, I really wanted to keen in and look at the reference photo. I didn't want to do everything by imaginary. Just some of it, like the land shapes and throwing in islands, putting in maybe a little boat. You know, I seen that on the reference photo, so I kind of went with that and made it kind of like my own little boat, and then I made another little boat on there. So I was kind of having fun with that. But when it came to something like the glasses, where you have to be more specific and more detailed in that with the reflections and all that, I looked to the reference photo and try to get it as close as I can to the colors that the reference photo had. And see, I'm going over this with my first layer, working in little small circles. And then I'm taking that lighter pencil and kind of going up around it. And if I went around these lines, I really, whenever I use the OMS to kind of blend it in, I was very careful not to overblend over the lines that I wanted to stay. I didn't want to smear them. I didn't want them, to completely disappear. My worst fear would be them smearing. So I took it really easy with the brush and the OMS to be able to lightly go in the same direction as a line. Maybe just swiped across it once or twice in that same direction as a line, so that way it would not disappear. Then I would do my normal rounded blending, like where I kind of move my brush in little circles. I do that around the line. I don't do that on top of the line, because I would not want my line to smear into my lighter color. Now in this one here, I'm filling in a little bit more of a darker shadow. So I use some dark browns to make that shadow, because I always figure that if it needs to be darker, I can always make it darker. It's easier to make things darker than it is to try and go back and make it lighter. There is things that you can use, like the touch-up textured little, I don't know what it's called. It's just like a little, it's with the Touch and Texture brand. They've got touch-up, called a touch-up, and it looks like nail polish, but it's clear and it has some little bit of grit in it, and you can actually use that with the colored pencil titanium white. It's like a white powder, and you can kind of mix that together to make a liquid where you can actually do a little bit of touch-up. If you kind of messed up, you can lightly put that over it. You don't want to add water to it. It's just that little touch-up texture, little glass nail polish. I always think it looks like nail polish. I mean, it should be. It looks like it. And then the white titanium powder stuff that they got, and you mix those two together to where it's a little bit runny, and you can actually kind of fix things if you need to. But I did not have to use that on this piece. I mean, this one here has been a lot of fun, and it doesn't have to be extremely perfect with the map. It's just kind of make it your own. So I didn't really have to put any of that stuff down, but I will before I add my polychromos pencils for all the detail. Since I do have a thick layer of color pencil filled in those grooves, I am going to have to spray it with my, let's see here, I want to get it right. It's a little can, and it's by the Colored Pencil, or Brush and Pencil, and it's the Touch-Up Texture. I want to take that and spray it over my entire piece to where, and lightly and far away, so that way I'm not adding any droplets, like big heavy droplets or anything like that, but I just want to lightly spray over it at least once, so that way I can add in my final details with my polychromos and they'll actually stick, because I do have quite a bit of layers on these glasses, and they do have rough edges from where I blended it out. It's not perfectly smooth, so going back in with that polychromos pencil is going to give it that more smoother look and not the rough edge look. So I definitely need to do that, and that will be on toward the ending part of the video. I will be able to show you guys that, maybe even possibly take the picture into the shop, like my little shop, and I'll be at home and hopefully, and then spray it. If not, I'll be outside in the elements spraying it hopefully on a dry, non-windy day. And also, if you guys like this video, click the like and subscribe also. That really truly helps me out. It lets YouTube know, or be able to notify you if you click the little bell that I've got another video uploaded. I've been trying to stick to uploading my videos like late Wednesday night, so you guys would probably get them on Thursday. And then I'm also doing like product reviews on things. So I mean, I'm thinking about adding another product review that I'm actually really excited about. I actually got a couple of them that I really want to do a product reviews on, and those will be separate than like the color pencil video, so you may actually see those pop up every now and then. So yeah, definitely don't miss out on that. Click the like and subscribe, and then also I would extremely love it if you guys would go ahead and leave a comment on maybe some things that you'd like to see. I know I've been doing color pencil. I also do pastels, like soft pastels. I also do charcoal. I know that I'm going to be working on a new Patreon video, and since I'm new to Patreon, I know there's not a lot there, but I do have another charcoal piece that I wanted to try out and put on my Patreon page. So yes, there's been a lot of things going. I have been trying to stay upbeat here, so getting some things are rolling, but I would definitely love your feedback. So let me know if there's something that you guys are wanting to see, or if you're needing help with something. I'd love to hear from you. And see, on a lot of these, going back to the color pencil piece that we're working on, I know I got carried away. All right, on the shadowing, I've been still sticking to my browns. If you've noticed, I've used some darker browns, I've used some lighter browns. Even though in the picture it kind of looks a little bit grayish, I've been kind of sticking away from the gray for now, or any other color. I did add a little bit of black in this to give that darker look. Like I said, it's so much easier to go darker if it's not dark enough, but it is too hard to go lighter if you're already really super dark. You don't want to go too dark. So always think, when you do a color pencil piece, or heck, if you want to stick with that with other pieces, try going lighter, because you can always go darker. So that is definitely a thing. And then at the very last of this video, I know I'm working on this little piece. I'm not going to do the whole entire piece because it's all the same repetitive things. I just wanted to make sure I included some key things like shadowing around the glasses, working on the map itself. You know, I didn't do the whole entire thing, but the video will kind of, right here, go a little bit distorted, and that's because I didn't really care for that shadow. The shadow didn't look right to me. So I went ahead and put back up my camera really quick, so that way I can kind of correct the shadowing around here. So I added a little bit different texture, like our contour to the shadow, and made a little bit whiter on the shadow. And see, that's just how, you know, you can make it. Don't worry if it's too light, because with it being too light, I can go back in and correct this if it's lighter, but it's too hard when it's dark. So there's where I got that first piece done. Here is the second piece where I completed the whole entire background. All right, there is part 2 of the color pencil piece. Moving on to part 3, where we'll be working on the photographs and the book. Last will come the mouse. And if you guys like this video, click the like and subscribe. I'd love to see you again, and y'all have a good time. Bye.